Hi everyone, it's Jill Foster here with you today, and I hope you've brought your sweet tooth with you because we are going to be stamping and painting some sweet treats. So the stamp set that has all of these yummy goodies on it is our new transparent stamp set called 30-785 My Sweet. It also has some great sentiments and is very fun to work with. Now, as always, I just wanted to remind you that I will have a full supply list at the very end of the video up on screen. So if you want to check out in detail any of the supplies I'm using in today's video, just hit pause and you can check it out then. To start things off here, I wanted to show you the palette of colors that I'm using for my painting. The colors on the right hand side are Arteza gouache paints that I have added to my palette, and down here down the side are Distress Ink REINKERS that I am using as watercolors. And if you want to learn more about that palette, and which is just an old palette from Walmart, but why I like to use these paints this way, I will link to a couple of other videos I have done using these same paints. So I went ahead and I pre-stamped this adorable, cute little cupcake image onto Canson 140-pound watercolor paper using Memento ink in the color of Toffee Crunch. And I am just painting on top of this, and I love that this gives us a very hand-painted, sort of a no-line watercolor look. And especially with the mix of the gouache paints, which are more opaque than traditional watercolors, you really can sort of make those lines disappear, but it's not so light that you are straining to see what you are doing, which for me is stressful when it's stamped so light that I just can't see the image. So that's why I love using this particular ink for the sort of faux no-line watercoloring look. Now, as I painted this cupcake, I kind of bounced around to different sections of the stamp or dried in between the layers so that the colors wouldn't bleed and blend together. And this cupcake for me, I don't know what happened. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below if this happens to you. Sometimes when you're coloring or painting, it just got away from me. I don't know what was going on with my color choices, and I felt like the top pinks were more towards the purple end, and the bottom pinks on the wrapper were more towards like a bubblegum pink, and I just didn't like how that was gelling, and everything that I was doing to fix it wasn't working, but I did not stop. I decided I am going to persist. I stamped this. I've this far in, it's just paper. I'm just going to keep adding till I like it, or I can just chuck it in the trash when I am done. And it turns out I ended up really liking the finished effect. And for me, one thing I really love about mixing my gouache paints with my watercolor paints is that gouache paints can be opaque, especially the less water that you add, or if you use them straight out of the tube, they're going to be more opaque, which lets you go back in and sort of hide things that you've done, layer on more colors, and get rid of colors beneath that you weren't happy with. And so for this card, this especially worked out well because as you can see right here, this was kind of like a hot mess of pink. So I just kept at it and kept working at it, added in some richer reds, which I think worked well too. Now on this tiny little outline, sometimes my hand is not very steady with a paintbrush, so I've just grabbed an alcohol-based marker and outlined that. Now that will be waterproof, so I can paint right up next to it and it's not going to bleed or blend. And here I go again with more pinks, and that red wasn't completely dry, so it started to bleed. And yep, this card was just one of those that had everything happen to it that possibly could happen with it. Here I thought, okay, I will pull that red down more here in this wrapper, which I did like the look of that, especially with that deeper red up at the top. Then for some reason I grabbed orange. Don't ask me why. And then yellow. And yeah, you can see this is where things got really scary for me, and I thought, maybe we're done here. But I persisted. Maybe it wasn't a good idea. Maybe I should have just started over, but Here now, off screen a little bit, I'm pulling some of that orange and yellow down into the wrapper. And you know what? This is just playing around. And at the end of the day with stamping, what I love is it's just a piece of paper. And if you have fun in the process, that's all it is. Here I am adding just a little bit of grounding for this cupcake. Now I really wanted just a very basic, sweet looking hand-painted cupcake in the center of the card without any other details, a lot of other things on there, just a very clean and simple card. And so I think at the end I end up with that. Um, and you'll have to let me know, do you like seeing videos like this where things become a hot mess so we try and fix them up? Or would you rather see a card that had a definite plan right from the beginning? I'm so curious what you enjoy seeing when you are watching card videos. Down here in that area down below, I am trying to kind of reflect some of those colors down into the ground or the table or wherever this would be sitting. And I did like how that turned out. Again, with those gouache paints, I could lighten up sort of that chocolate cupcake here by going over it with some white. And again, that is one of the really fun things about the gouache paints, that they are very forgiving. As you can see, I can go in here and just keep playing and layering colors until I'm really happy with how things looked. I'm so sorry, I turned this off camera a bit. Just for comfort when painting, often I will turn my paper and my card so one, I don't rub my hand right down through everything and smear it all, and it's just more comfortable. So I was just adding a little bit of some of that yellow around the outer edge of this heart design. Now as I watch myself paint this, I'm thinking of all different color schemes that this would be great for. And again, this stamp set would be great for birthdays, for Valentine's Day, for any love theme occasion, an anniversary, a wedding even. I love that Penny Black's sort of love theme Valentine collection is very versatile. You are not tied into just Valentine images. You can use them for lots of different occasions. So we are getting closer here to something that I was happy with. And to finish everything off, I thought sprinkles, that's what we need. We need some sprinkles. So I am just using a brush there and painting on some sprinkles to the cupcake just randomly onto that frosting. This would also be a fun stamp set to use with kids. You could stamp a bunch of Valentines for them to paint or color in. This is a very playful and whimsical look to it. So to finish off this card, I just cut from that same watercolor paper a border. This is using our Simple Stackers Creative Die. Great for any style of card and also to really finish off a clean, a simple card. So just added that around the outside edge of that card and it was complete. Oh, and that sentiment is also from the same stamp set as the cupcakes, which is the My Sweet transparent set. Now, I did make a couple other cards with this set and I colored them and painted them using the same techniques that I just showed you, only I was much more successful and didn't have to add quite as many layers. But here's another tip that I wanted to share with you. If you are looking to make a one-layer card, you've painted something you're really happy with, but it just doesn't look complete, once it is dry, you can very carefully, I like to use a marker for this, but you can very carefully just take a marker. I'm using just a very light gray alcohol-based marker, and I am outlining only on one side of the images that I have colored, so just on the right hand side. And this just gives some automatic dimension to the card. This looks like it is popping up off of the page even though it is one layer, and I think it just looks more finished by giving that shadow. And you can start light and then add more layers like I'm doing here once you're comfortable with the look. I'm always a little scared, especially if I really like what I painted, to do that. But once you do that a couple of times, I think you'll find that it is a really great tip when you're making clean and simple cards. I also will go in and instead of just adding lines along that edge, add a few sort of polka dots, sort of some stippling into some of those larger areas or lengthier sides. And that also adds to the whimsical look. This is also a great way if you're using light colors to hide if you have gone outside of the lines when you are painting or coloring. You can add this border along an edge where you might have gone outside of the lines a little bit. So to finish off this card, I stamped our sentiment. This is from 30-792 Love Quotes. Again, a great set of sentiments that you can use for many different occasions. And I use the same trick with the sentiment. So I'm also going to, on this large word love on that same right hand side, going to do some outlining with that light gray alcohol based marker just to give that even more dimension. It's kind of hard to capture this really light color on camera, but it does really show up in real life and finishes off the card. Now, one more card to look at. I won't show you the whole process for this one, but I used the same techniques, only I took the images from that stamp set and stamped them all over around my card front and then painted them in. So this is all one layer but filled with yummy, happy treats. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, as well as our website and our blog, and I'll link to all of those for you down in the YouTube description box below. And as promised, here is a list of all the supplies used. Happy stamping!